So this is the chart of the Perceptron model, and this is an approximation because obviously the time is not the exact time, but I've done enough research to, show that even with the noon time, a lot of this is really accurate, especially since we're looking at the bigger planets like Saturn, which doesn't really move much in one day. So it's safe to say, that this is the chart. And there's really multiple charts from this time frame of like a decade or so that we can use depending on what exactly you're looking at and what you're looking for. For example, there'd be one for the 1940s when the concept was introduced, and then there would be another one for 1957 when the perceptron model, the physical model, was actually built. And then you have this one, the 1958 model, which is when the perceptron was introduced to the public. The U.S. Office of Naval Research publicly announced the perceptron in 1958, so it brought it to, wider attention, and it marked its formal introduction to the scientific community and to the public. And you can actually read that 1957 technical report by Frank Rosenblatt called The Perceptron, a Perceiving and Recognizing Automaton. I will link that in the description below if you're curious. But what do we have here? Why am I saying that this could potentially change everything? So even though this full moon is really highlighting more so the first house, it's also highlighting the second house of like resources, what has already been established, what we already like physically have, what's already in our possession, right? The second house rules things that we possess, things that we have, like the five senses, right? And in a way, the only thing AI has right now is its neuron. It has the neuron 1.0. And so this full moon is really highlighting, well, how can we make this better? How can we build upon what has already been established? And because Saturn is the ruler for this year, this full moon happening back to back, the one we had in June, and now this blue moon that's happening today, this is really leading to possibly one of the biggest developments for AI for probably this entire year, which is this simple framework of basically what I'm calling a neuron 2.0. We could definitely, by the end of this retrograde, we could have a new way of understanding how neurons work. And if we apply that into the artificial neuron, it's going to rapidly lead to so many more advancements. AGI is going to literally be right around the corner, which is why my timeline of AGI still stands. We had 2 Saturn ruled years, and Saturn already rules AI. And then next year, we're going to have a Jupiter ruled year, and Jupiter is another planet that rules AI. And I already talked about the Jupiter years too and why that's so important. So yeah, this is really insane to literally have a reconstitution, a revolution of sorts from a model that's like how many years old? 1958 was the last significant, modeling and way that we understand how neural network works. And now we're in 2024 and we're about to get a change in that. This is a complete shift on how it even operates. I also wrote in my piece on this, I wrote that, Saturn is retrograding in the 3rd house of AI. So that's, the first 3 houses in succession are being changed, are being affected by what's going on right now. You got the 1st house that's ruled by Capricorn. You got the 2nd house that's ruled by Aquarius. And you have the 3rd house, which Saturn is actually in right now, retrograde. So all of these houses are being affected. And the 3rd house rules chips. It rules computation. It rules compute. It rules data. It rules information. It rules analytics. And because the 3rd house is in Pisces, there was a lot of things in AI that was overlooked or wasn't understood properly because Pisces is a very nebulous sign. It's ruled by Neptune. So there was a lot of things that we didn't understand. And now Saturn is retrograding in this house and it's bringing back that old knowledge and it's bringing back, the perceptron like, hey, I think we didn't understand how this actually works. Saturn rules our neurological system because Saturn's expression in Aquarius, Aquarius rules the electrical systems of the body, the nervous system. So, having this retrograde is really re-examining how neurons function and how that can be applied to AI as well. But this is still a theoretical framework from the Flatiron Institute, from CCN. So it's just an idea right now. Should this actually become something more concrete by the end of the retrograde? Like I said, we could have we could have a revolution in AI, which makes sense because next year is the first Jupiter year, and that's huge.